Hello everyone, I'm Guido and I'm going to be the host for the webinar today. A little bit about my background. I work for eazyBI and eazyBI is an eazyBI partner. I have been working on eazyBI platform for around 4 years and I'm the guy in the company that everyone goes to when they have some struggles or they can't figure something out in the MDX language. Today's agenda is, this is today's agenda. First, we will talk about how to enable transition history so that you can start analyzing them in your account. Then we'll have a detailed look at how it works. And then we'll go over some use cases where I have prepared a dashboard here. And we will try to recreate this. For example, here I have a report that shows average time spent in days by different statuses. Here I have a report that shows percentage-wise how much time is spent in every status by projects. And then here we have a more advanced report that also calculates the status days in statuses, including status days in the current status. First, in order to start using issues transition history in eazyBI, you have to enable that. And in order to do that, you have to go to source data section, edit your Jira source application. In the next step here, you will find a checkbox. And after you enable this checkbox, you press import. And after this, the import is finished. You will have some additional information in your issues queue. Right? And also there's a very useful link here that I would recommend reading through before starting using the issues change history that covers a lot of useful information. For example, we'll be using issues history measure, and here's an explanation. There's going to be an explanation on how it works, what it does. So after you enable this import, you do the import, and you go to your issues queue here, you'll be able to see some additional data like transition status dimension, transition, and here is the list of measures and dimensions that can be added. And some of them are going to be hidden. And the reason for that is that they're going to be used late in some calculated measures. Right? So today we're going to use transition status dimension. We are going to use these transitions from on two statuses. We're going to use days in transition status. And we're going to also use some of the calculations that eazyBI has made for us. We're going to use issues history and average days in transition status. And now I want to show you in detail how does this in eazyBI work. Right? And in order to do that, I will start by using the transition dimension here. And if I wanted to pick that transition status dimension. And if I open this up, you see that there's going to be empty rows regarding issues created. And the reason for that is that this is not connected directly to just issues, right? This data is sometimes separate. In order to see information about transition status dimension, we have to use transition measures here. And for this example, I will use transition to, transition from, days in transition status, transition to status first day, transition to status last day, and transition from status last day. And we'll remove this one. What can I see here already is that for status progress, I can see that there has been 615 transitions to this status. That means that in Jira, people have changed Jira statuses to in progress 615 times. I can see that there have been transitions from status 591, which means that people have changed a Jira status that was in progress to something else this amount of times. And I can also see how long have Jira spent in these statuses. And also I can also see the detailed view when was the first transition, when was the last transition, and was it from status or to status. To look at this even more in depth, I can let's pick on a specific issue and let's look at how it works out there. Here I will select all issues, and also I will select all transitions, not transition statuses, so that all statuses are not there. And I will pick this issue because it has a lot of transitions, so we can have a good example. And in addition, I will add time, and I will also add transitions, right? So that we can get the most detailed view I can think of. And so we'll see by days, and transitions we'll look at by specific transitions. And one side note before starting look at this is that this is not how you not a good style to make reports. We are doing this just for demonstration purposes so that you can get the detailed view on how the transition statuses work. And with using all of these dimensions, I can track down in specific detail what happened to this specific issue, right? So here I can see that on October 20th, this issue was created. I know that because it was moved from nothing to a to-do status. Next, it was moved from to-do status, from status. It means that in Jira, the field was in progress, in to-do, right? And someone changed the field to in progress. So it moved away from to-do and it moved to a status in progress. Here I can also see what were the specific timestamps or the specific times for all the transitions, right? Then, for example, on November 27th, the issue was moved from in progress back to to-do. I can see here. So this is the transition where it was transitioned from. And here I can also see how many days did the issue spend in this status that it was moved away from. This also means that if an issue is sitting right now in status progress and it's staying there, then eazyBI will not register the current, how much time has it been in that status currently. And we're gonna calculate that in the last report today. Now that we had some detailed view on this, let's try to make some reports out of it. Here, sorry, put this a little bit below, like this. And so let's start with this average time and status. So these are actually status categories, and I'll show you in a second why and how they work. Let's just jump quickly to some new report. And here we're gonna use transition statuses because that's what we're working with right now. And in transition statuses, there are status categories available, and this will enable me. Let's pick the right measures, and we're gonna use the average days in transition status. This is eazyBI pre-calculated calculated measure. And it basically, if you look at the formula, it's the same thing. They are using the same measures that we talked about previously. For example, they use how many days have been spent in a status and how many transitions away from a status they have been, right? They use this column, basically 36, and then they use this. So that enable that, and now it shows the average days spent in every status. And if I switch it to bar chart, switch it to vertical, add some data labels, I have recreated the first report from the dashboard. And if you have, so this is by using categories that are pre-made, that some pre-made groups. Maybe you have some kind of different, maybe categories are different for what you want to see in eazyBI. And so in the next example, I will create a custom group or category of issues. So we're done with this dashboard report. Let's move on to start from scratch again, and let's move into days in status category percentage-wise by project. Here, for example, here we know that an issue spends 5% on average in done status. Basically, when it means that issue is moved back to in progress status and there's something done with it later. Then in progress and review, it spent this percentage of time, and as a to-do, issues sit for this long. So before finishing the graphic, I will start by making a group. And this time I will use days in transition status. So select this one. And before I start making the calculation, I will bookmark. So it's just a little bit easier. So start with bookmarking to do, then bookmarking progress, then I bookmark done, and then I'll bookmark review as well. And a little bit about the workflow that in my demo data, the workflow starts with a to do, and then it usually goes to in progress status. In any status in between, the issue can be in review, and then when the issue is done, it's moved to done status. So I just bookmarked the members, and so they show up here. And when I create a new calculated member, they will be available here for selection. So it makes it a little bit easier. So what I'm going to create here is in progress and review, right? So create a measure that combines in progress and review statuses. And to combine these, I will use one of the aggregators. If you scroll down here, you will find aggregate function. To learn more about this aggregate function, you can go to eazyBI documentation, look up the aggregate, and eazyBI will tell you, explain what it is, give you the syntax, arguments, and also give you some examples. So here, I'll copy this example and just adjust it a little bit. Here are priorities. They're using priorities. I'm going to be using the transition statuses here. So first I will pick the in progress, put a comma, and then I will select in review. So I want these statuses together. So when I create this now, I remove everything else. Then this calculated member, we have a combination of both statuses, right? So the issue starts with to do, goes in progress or review, and then it's done. And so here now I have the statuses ready. Now I just need the calculation on the percentage. So next, I need to get what's the total for all transition statuses so that I can later define that. In order to get that, I will use the auto-completion functionality to reference the transition status dimension, and I will use a default member function. And you can find this in the documentation as well. Basically what it does, it just returns what's the default value for all transition statuses. Not the default one, but just the total value. And that's what I want. And I want to have all the transition statuses, and I also need to specify what measure do I want regarding that. By default, it will give me just issues count, right? But I want days in transition status. I'll put these in brackets. It's called a tuple. And days in all statuses, right? I say total. So this gives me now the total days in all statuses. And with these brackets, I'm telling eazyBI, I'm like forcing him. I'm saying, hey, eazyBI, give me all statuses. Just don't care what the transition status dimension does. I'm telling you, give me all the transition statuses and give me days in transition statuses. Right? So I'm kind of forcing eazyBI to have this selection, and so I have both numbers. And the last thing I need to do is to just define them. Find the other one, and days in transition status as percentage-wise. Right? I could also add some calculations so that it doesn't divide by 0 and such, but we'll try to keep it simple for the webinar. Now it gives some good numbers. I will change the formatting here to integer percentage. Okay, so it looks good. And the final thing I need to do, if I take a look at the dashboard, then it's shown by projects. So I need to include projects in my report. So let's drag in projects, see how it looks if I do it this way. Select all projects. Let's look at the bar chart. Click on vertical again, and it doesn't look great. That's great. So maybe it's better to drag it in columns. And yeah, that looks much better. And now I just need to put it stacked so that it's in one bar. And that's it. We have the report done, the second one. Okay, so moving on to the last one, this is more advanced. And I will use the existing some of the existing setup already to save some time. And for this case, to give you a little explanation, let's look at the detailed overview that here, let's imagine it's October 20th, and the issue is in to-do status, just in to-do status, then eazyBI doesn't count because eazyBI doesn't know how long the issue is going to stay in the to-do status, right? You can't do that. And so we have to manually calculate that. If you want to know how long an issue has been sitting there in to-do status and doing nothing, we have to calculate that manually. And just logically, we can do that by taking the last time, taking this to-do status and comparing the days difference until today, right? When it was transitioned to to-do or any other status up until today, like what's the day difference there? Right. So as an example, so I removed those because I want to start kind of from scratch. So if I enable days in transition status, this will show for in progress status for this project. It will show how many days they have been spent in these statuses for issues that have been moved around and moved away from in progress. Now I need to figure out the other ones. And for that, I will use the transition status dimension, and I'm going to use, the measure transition to status last date. So what was the last time when this issue was transitioned to in progress, and it's sitting there, right? And then I will need to compare that to now, which this function returns to current date and time. So we need to compare those, and we can compare those by using the date diff days function. So this function is going to take those two values and compare how many days are there in between of them, both of them. Basically, it's days difference between the last transition to this status. And by this status is in progress, right? Because we can also select it for other statuses. And if I enable this, I still need to change the formatting a little bit so that it shows a number. eazyBI is just trying to guess what's the correct formatting. And here, first thing I'll notice is that here it also overrides the issues that have been moved away from progress status that are, for example, done. We don't want to know about done issues, that's for done issues. So we have to include that in calculation. And also my data is a little bit old from 2 years ago. So I'll just do a little time traveling back 27 months ago. And in order to exclude the issues that are done or are not in status in progress anymore, I will use a function. Okay, actually I wanted this one. I will use the function issues history. And this shows how many issues at the selected time period are in the transition status that we've selected. So measures issues history, and this will return a 1 if it thinks, okay, yeah, this issue is in this status currently, then it will return 1. So that's what we're going to use, and then we just need to add a logical expression that will actually do different things based on this value. So what it does is, so if it checks, okay, let's check, does this issue is still in progress status? Yes, it's still in progress status. Then we're gonna calculate the days difference until today. Otherwise, let's just return 0. Here you can see now we have zeros for the issues that have been moved away from in progress status or that are not anymore in progress. They're probably done. And then it calculates the days difference between for issues that are currently in progress status up until today. And the last thing you need to do is just to combine them. Days in transition status plus the last one that we created should be this one. So days in transition status, including the current status. You might, when you're trying to do this on your system, there might be cases you need to adjust this, but this I'm trying to give you, trying to show you how it's done and why it's done, so to give you more of an understanding how it works. If you want to learn more about how to use eazyBI in short amount of time, we offer training programs. You can find them by going to our website, FlexBI, in the Academy section. And these are training programs for companies, but specifically for this webinar, we also created open groups where individuals can also sign up. We'll take a look at that in a second. And during these trainings, we try to keep the groups very small, of maximum of 5 people per group, so that I can work closely together with every single person in the training. And a big part of the training, or a high emphasis, is on practical part, because I think the best way to learn eazyBI is actually to try things out and work with it. And for people, so this, you can also find these events in Eventbrite. After you purchase a ticket, we'll send you a link to the Zoom meeting. You'll be able to join. And for people who sign up during the first 24 hours, there's going to be a 10% discount. The trainings are separated by 3 categories. First one is for people who are just starting off, and it, for the most part, includes how to get most of using dashboards, because actually there's a lot of functionality there, and how to take some existing ideas or existing reports and making some adjustments. And the MDX Guru is made for people who want to get very good at creating reports and get into MDX. We're going to cover a lot of the theory behind the MDX and the basics, so that you can build and learn functions and quickly improve yourself. And the last one is very, very special training for that admins, where we will help you to learn to import and create data cubes from scratch. So basically, if you have your own system, another that is not Jira, for example, and you want to analyze these data in eazyBI, we can help you to learn that. We're going to use REST API, SQL connections, see how that works, and also cover how to create advanced settings for custom fields in Jira. That's it for me. Okay, so I really hope that you learned something useful today and you enjoyed the webinar. Maybe I hope to see you maybe sometime in the future as well. And if you have any other questions, you can email us at support@flexbi as well. We'll try to help you with that. Okay, bye-bye.